number one, I've said this to crew that if we had remained in Alabama, Tuscaloosa, I'd be in prison. I would have. There's no way I was going to be second rate, you know. And I say that with the full knowledge of he wants to be incarcerated, but the anger burned bright. And now as an adult, the knowledge that you know the way I was treated was a learned behavior. These kids learned it from their parents.
That's right.
The Rebel Yell, the Stars and Bars, and Johnny Reb, and the South Will Rise Again. Which I find ironic, you know, now as an adult, because my dad was from Texas, and you know there was like 2,500 Mexican American Texans that fought for the Confederacy. Some of them in Hood's brigade, you know, at Antietam, Gettysburg, the Wilderness. Not that I have any sort of with the Confederacy, because they also fought for the Union. And all I am saying is, I find on certain subjects the ignorance profound, fucking profound.
It's selective.
It is very selective. And you know, I want to be careful in what I'm saying, because I don't want to come off as venomous. Because I also recognize that I'm half white. It's in my DNA. It's my genetics. One of my middle names is Mac Garvey. My mother's maiden name, you know, of Scottish descent. But I have to realize that what I went through there is not, in my opinion, representative of white culture. It is representative of the early 80s in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where I did not fit.
I'll help you with that. Even it's like the racist whites, because I was born there, the whole thing. And what helped me make it were the good whites.
Yes.
It wasn't a whole bunch, but there was enough though.
There was some really good ones.
That's what I'm saying. They had no choice, because they put themselves in a bad spot.
Right.
They're a nigger lover. And you know, they took, you talk about some serious chances there.
They did.
They did.
I met some very kind people. Which is also the dichotomy of dealing with such dripping venom as hate, but then these people in the middle of it who were just kind.
Brazilian got it from my mama. Work ethic got it from my father. Or you can ask Ruby. Knocked out on my life, but I keep moving.
What's up, everybody? You are now tuned in to the Y.O.D. podcast with the one and only Tough is Good, Smart is Better, Are You Coachable, Choose to Succeed, and then
Y.O.D., Y.O.D., Y.O.D. I'm the young old dude with the new ology. Leader of the new school, old mentality. Got the loose Twitter fingers. You following me? Yeah. Over your head, got too much knowledge. Graduated in games, season no salting. Outlast today, don't need no nostalgic. I'm over 38, performing like a freshman in college. I'm the youngest old dude you know. Motive with life change, effortless with the flow. Atta boy, oh, you ain't know? This man against time, and this time just had to go. Let me vest 20 pounds of haters and run some more. Steadily getting the lap, I stride around goals. Lost it, I'm found in and winning. How I catch a bunch of L's, I quarterback the beginning. Yelling Y.O.D. Yeah, I'm a young old dude. Learn the rules like a pro, taking students to school. Y.O.D. Up in the gym, dropping mad jewels. Still hungry, stay seasoned, play mad fool. Y.O.D. Stay on my grind, it's that mastermind. Like wine, I get better with time. Y.O.D. Oh, you ain't heard about me. Got everybody in the city saying Y.O.D.
thanks for tuning in to the Y.O.D. podcast. Be sure to click follow, subscribe, and share at the Y.O.D. podcast. Visit us online at www.theyodpodcast.com. The Y.O.D. podcast with the one and only Ajan Rubin.
Thanks again for tuning into the Y.O.D. podcast, episode 112. Today we have a special guest.
Yeah, my name's John.
From the same state as Ajan Rubin, just separate counties, yet the same type of shit. For those viewing and listening, introduce yourself to the people. Who is John?
My name's John. most part of my life, I lived on either Camp Pendleton or Oceanside, California. But 3 years, my dad was in the Navy, a corpsman, and he got stationed in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I know Crew, he trained my son close to 20 years ago to box. And last week we were talking and he brought up Alabama, growing up there. And I was like, we started discussing things that I hadn't spoken about since 84, 85. It was a good influence on my boy. He wanted to learn how to defend himself. I brought him to Crew's old studio. It was down the street. My son didn't want to do kickboxing, Muay Thai, and Crew accommodated him. Straight up boxing. And my son did that, and he learned quite a bit in that one day he got a bloody nose. This dude gave him one. Boom. And my son, he was really embarrassed and, crying when we got home. And he had a gusher. But Crew said, come back tomorrow. So he squared out for the boy again, like within 24 hours. And my son dropped him, just stopped him in his tracks. And then at that moment, I saw a light bulb go off. And my son, when you're knocked down or scared, like we all are, it's a human emotion, you don't run from it. You confront it. And I could really see, like, we got in the car that night and he was smiling, and he maybe was 8 years old.
Nice.
So it was rather profound, because that is the sort of thing that you want as a parent for your child to see. And the fact that, Crew was a former Marine, my dad being a corpsman, it seemed right here. And then even when my son, he got into high school and busy with football and everything, and Crew let me come and train for like the last 6 months and I just hit a bag and all that, but it was cool because I signed a contract.
Yeah.
And we were paying anyway, right?
Right.
So, but Crew accommodated me because he didn't have to do that, and I just stopped in to see him last week, and he brought up Alabama, and I was like,
fucking floodgate.
A floodgate, honestly. And I never saw any reason to discuss it.
Yeah.
And sometimes people were surprised because being Mexican American, or half. My dad's Tejano from Texas. My mom's white from here. Scottish English, born in LA and then Oxnard. So I did my best to vary the experience with Tuscaloosa, Alabama at that time period. I do love Alabama football, Roll Tide. I do. That was probably one of the positives I brought back.
Yeah.
Pecan pie.
Yep.
Honeysuckles, cane pole fishing, tramping through the woods with BB guns, those sort of things, right? But also, I brought back a sort of, I guess you could say, an anger after. Let me just say, coming from Camp Pendleton, California in 1982 and moving to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I didn't know what racism was. I had no clue. You go up on Pendleton, your neighbors are every race, and they're half. He have an afro, but his mom's Okinawan. So his eyes are I don't want to be inappropriate, but almond or something like that.
Yeah, I grew up on Camp Pendleton too.
Okay, well, your boys are of every.
Everything.
Yes, and in that time period, 82, a lot of the dads were vets, and so it was just.
It was like culture shock, straight shock.
Right, and I didn't know it until I got on the school bus and kids asked me, "What are you?" And I honestly did not know how to respond. I didn't. Well, what am I? I'm from California. My name's John. I honestly didn't know. And I asked my dad, "How come? Hey, Dad, how come our neighborhood there's only white people?" Well, what's going on? My dad was like, "Well, son, here the black people and white people live in separate neighborhoods." And I go, "Well, what about where's the Filipinos? Where's the Samoans? Where's the Mexicans? Where's the?" Dad, son, no, we were the only ones, and it culture shock wouldn't even, it doesn't even like encompass it. I was utterly, and I was 8. I was second grade, I believe, and I was utterly unprepared for the venom of racism. I didn't know what it was. I had never heard the N-word. It didn't really have a name for me. And I quickly found out. And if you look at the pictures of when we were stationed out Pendleton and Oceanside, my school pictures, normal kid. I had these T-shirts like "My daddy is a paratrooper." I'm smiling. And then you look 3 years at the school pictures in Alabama, and somebody pointed out there's almost a sadness in my eyes. We're talking second, third, fourth grade. It was a change and something that I did my best to bury when my dad got orders back to Camp Pendleton, Oceanside. Yeah, man, to explain it, I don't ever talk about it, but when Cruz said that he was from a neighboring city in Alabama, I was like, oh, well, let's talk about this. And I had never, so it was almost like the venom that I had done my utmost to stuff came out, and like quickly when we were talking. And I just, because being back in California, I had no reason to discuss that. People think that my experience with racism has more to do with being, I guess, Mexican and go back to Mexico and et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't that. I was never told that in Alabama. It was just a pure, like, if you will, a pure hate.
Yeah.
And it's not, I was talking to Crew
It's
about
different.
it's not ignorance.
No.
Ignorance is a lack of knowledge with an
Right.
ability to learn. No.
This was choice.
This was choice, and I find it rather, I guess I would say abusive, because I was a child.
Right.
I was a child, and I didn't know. I had never heard the N-word. I went home and asked my dad, hey, Dad, what. And I still say the N-word. Like, a rap song, I'll stop at that part. I don't even I gotta know. Because I'm waiting for that punch to come from somewhere. Because Alabama, it was like, what am I? Well, my mom's white, my dad's Mexican. My dad's in the Navy. He jumps out of airplanes. I tried to explain that. So I get there, man, and I had a teacher ask me if I wore sombreros, them big old men. And I was like, no, I do not. I do not. And she was like, well, if you go home and visit, relatives, and could you bring me one back? And I was like, I was in the second grade. I didn't understand. I remember going to recess and being asked, who are you going to play with? What are you talking about? Are you talking about basketball? Are you talking about, what were we talking about here? Football? Who? No, it was the white kids and the black kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what the fuck is this? Are we allowed to cuss on this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what the fuck is this? And I'm in the second grade. Like, what is this? So I get there, man, and there was a kid up the street. His dad was a sheriff for the local in Tuscaloosa. I don't remember the name of it, but he would have the squad car. And he pulled up one day, and I was with his son, and I remember his son's name to this day. And he was like, John, I hear at school you hang out with the N's. If you continue to do so, you cannot play with my son when you come home, because we live in the same neighborhood. And he goes, your mom is white, and that's okay. And now it's taken all these years for me to realize that, actually, I think that he said that with a sense of sarcasm, and that, not sarcasm, that's too light. Hate that is, my mother had children with a Mexican American man, a Texan. And I didn't understand it. In school, it seemed like at some point I realized that anger was my defensive mechanism.
Protection, too, though.
Right. And I was the oldest. I had a brother and sister, but I was the oldest. And like I said, there was no other. I heard a story once that there was a Mexican family there, but they talked about it like, in the good old days, there was one, and they liked to fight. You know what I mean? They like to fight at the bar, and I was like, okay, okay, whatever. So, but I remember starting to get in trouble. I remember asking to go to the bathroom, and there was a group of us, and there'd be a black kid and a white kid, and going to the bathroom, fighting. And I remember it vividly because my back was against the urinals, fighting them. And I want to say this. I would fight with the black kids, but I never felt a sense of racism from them.
Right.
It was just, we would do what we had to do. Whereas the white kids, they had very definitive feelings towards who I was, and their sense of entitlement or even superiority, which I didn't abide. So we were fighting in the bathroom, right? So the teacher catches us. They take us in front of the class, and they paddle you. Because in Alabama at that time, corporal punishment.
I told you this shit.
Paddle you in front of the whole fucking class. You know what I mean? As an example. So John was in the bathroom fighting these guys. And so then they call your dad. The principal, they call your dad. So after school, you go home and get your ass whooped.
Again.
For fighting in school. So if you step back and look at it like this, and you know what? I digress. I have a master's degree, and I've worked for Child Protective Services for 18 years. So if you step back and look at it, me as a child, fighting in the bathroom, getting hit by the teacher, and then getting whooped by my father 3 times in a day.
Yep.
Repeat cycle.
Yeah.
Once a week, every 2 weeks.
Yep.
For years on end.
Mm-hmm.
And and you know what? I'm not saying that I would win these fights, but there was a sense of you almost, there's a stifling environment that I felt like you wanted me to know my place and whatever that was. And I did not.
Many times when I talked on this, you hear the terms coming out of his mouth. It's the same shit. And it's so different to hear someone else say it, but it's still the same. Because during that time period and in that area, that's how it was. Especially for us of any color. And then mostly us black, as he said. When he showed up and he's not Caucasian, well, what are you?
Yes.
Well, you in the category. He's in the bucket with me. Whether you like it or not.
Right.
But sorry, go ahead, Ice.
No, and really, that's when I began to realize that in some form at that age, for an 8-year-old's mind, that my skin was my sin. And I found it profoundly unfair because, we were there because my dad was in the military. He was serving his country and all that other good stuff. And my mother, I could see in her eyes the sadness that we had to encounter such a hate. Yeah. I remember my sister running in the house, like John's fighting outside again. And there was always these older guys. It was never a fucking fair fight. It was always, I was outmatched. And I'm not saying I would win. I'm just, I felt like my back was against the wall and there was nowhere to go.
Right.
There's a song by Kendrick Lamar and Ty Dolla $ign and James Fauntleroy. It's L.A., but in the very beginning it talks about I'm out here all alone, And I couldn't encapsulate that feeling any better as a child, because I left there when I was like 11 or 12, and so I got there. I wasn't even double digits. The neighborhood in which I lived, they would have block parties, birthday parties. My family was not invited. I remember one time a kid coming up behind me and punching me in the back, and I was on a bike. And I chased him, and his dad grabbed me and threw me. And I ran home to my dad. My dad was swole. He was like a swole-ass Mexican. He was buff. And he comes up in his silkies. They're like the military running shorts. They're like little, your balls hang out. He came up there in them silkies and flip-flops. Nothing else. Went and pulled that dad out of the house and made him apologize to me in front of everyone. Like all the kids in the neighborhood were watching it, And my dad and my mother, they did their best at that time but there was no way they could protect us from. It, it wasn't just a few people, man. It was
The
a
whole
culture,
culture.
an environment.
I've been saying this for years. There was nowhere to go.
I do have also good memories of like eating honeysuckles and picking blackberries. My mom would make pies,
Yeah.
pecan pie. Some very nice salt of the earth people.
Yeah.
When we got orders back in '85, my dad got orders to Oceanside. You know, the best way I could put my feeling was, you know, Martin Luther King's "Free at Last, Free at Last." Like, I remember jumping up and down in the living room when my dad told us that we had orders back to Camp Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like that, and we did. We came back. Here's the thing, right? We landed here. I enter elementary school. I'm like, oh, and I actually had some friends from Camp Pendleton at this same school. But I encountered some other Mexican kids who were like, you know, you talk funny. You got a twang. You say y'all. Your mom's white. You don't speak Spanish. So you know what? They fought. I fight them too. And I had a cousin recently say, you know, John, you always seem to have associated with blacks or Samoans or Filipinos. And I would say, yeah, that's true. And the reason for that was because I have found, and I don't want to stereotype in saying this, but I have found those specific ethnic groups to be the most non-judgmental motherfuckers on earth. So why wouldn't I?
Right.
And I don't choose my friends by their race, by how they treat me and how they act. And I was talking to crew about this. You know, if you have that friend who talks shit about certain ethnic groups, well, then in my mind, I got to say, like, hey, man, you know, when I'm all around, what are you saying about me? You got that selective hate? Get the fuck out of here. You know what? And it's so profoundly ignorant because it's so easy to hate.
Yeah.
Oh, in a broad stroke, like them. I hate them.
Right.
Why can't you be... When I hate somebody, I feel like an artist. Like, mine is tailor-made for you. You know,
I
hate
got issues with you.
A, B, C, and D. And I don't need to call you a racial epithet or a slur or disrespect your religion based on that. It's because you did this.
There you go.
Because you did this.
Yeah.
Yes, very specific. It's so easy to, you know, hating's easy. And racism, it's very easy and it's comfortable because it's them.
Yeah.
Them. Us, them, the other. I learned in college sociology the concept of the other, them. And I don't see why in America why we have to throw down another American of an ethnic group in order to stand up. I believe that we have a foundation of racism in America, which makes it easy as a default.
That's what go ahead, man, because I was thinking the same shit he's saying. Go ahead.
It's not hard to go to that default. You know, I do believe this is the greatest country on earth. When people say "Make America Great Again," I'm like, well, we are. We're gonna be. We have our ups and downs. We have serious, significant problems. And I trip out on how many nations on earth don't really like us, and we're over here fighting each other on some bullshit. But when it comes time for war, crew, get in there with Jose and John Smith. Get up in there and attack, you know?
Yep.
I often found that ironic.
Yep.
Because many times, like in, the Vietnam War or other, drafted were the poor kids. And which it came from all ethnic groups. And you're going to fight and you're going to die next to your buddies of different races. But in America, you go back to a default.
Right.
And I'm not saying all people, I'm just saying that's so easy to buy into. And I'm not saying just because somebody is of a certain ethnicity, be it Mexican, Black, Samoan, Native American, that they don't hate. It's also easy because I've seen some very virulent a Mexican hating on a Puerto Rican. Like, what the fuck is that? You know, that's just a saltwater Mexican to me. And I got Puerto Rican family. Like, oh, you're the same as me. You know, I'm blessed that I have family of nearly every race. And we are the Mud Gang, but you know, it's the big old bus to get in where you fit in and leave us be. Leave us be. And I think that in the end, I think that much of America will look like us in some sort of fashion.
You got no choice.
Yeah, they have no choice. And you know, I also think we're beautiful. In whatever mix you are, you know. But I do worry that sometimes we get so tribal. And it's ironic because, you know, I think statistically speaking, if you were worried about like being murdered here in Southern California, you know, as a Mexican, the most probable would be being murdered by another Mexican.
Yeah. Depending on where you live. Yeah.
Right. So what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it does worry me, especially with kids. And I just do think sometimes it's too easy for us to default and blame others. Like, you took our jobs. Or they think because you're Mexican American that you hopped a border.
Yep.
Right?
It's just assume stuff.
Yeah, they assume. And I asked my grandmother in Texas, I said, when do we come to America? And she looked at me like, with a blank face, like, what? Like, we've been here. Like, what are you talking about? You know? And I'm like, right on. You know what I mean? Very, very much right on. And gosh, you know, when my maternal grandparents got married, there was a beef because one was a Scottish Catholic and the other was an English Protestant.
Jesus.
And you know, there was a low level beef on that. So that also makes me realize, even with my own family, that we're always gonna find some reason to hate on each other, regardless of what nation. You know.
Shit, like I was explaining to him before he came in, how it's there's racial issues, but then there's always interracial problems. It's like the self-hate. What the fuck for? Or like when I used, you know, the other episodes in the past, and I'd say, you know, hey, you do whatever, and they're like, oh man, you know, we just dumb niggas, you know, we stupid niggas. Or you try to do better. Oh, you uppity nigga, you know, and motherfucker, which one is it? Are we trying to do better and get better or not? And you know, as he say, as far as murder, you got to be worried about being murdered with your own ethnic group or by your own ethnic group. And it's like, yeah, but for what? Over what? You know, it's like, it's just, I don't know, just a super poop. And you just got to navigate and just keep looking at virtue, I suppose. But don't be a fool, though. You know, like really pay attention. But what drives it? And I don't know. You tell me what you think. But with me coming out of there, it kind of come from my gut and my soul. I already knew what right and wrong is. Well, we all know that. But there's an inner character trait that made it different from me and a handful of us. Like I said, during the time we got the fuck out of there because the majority didn't. He's that goddamn environment, and he said the same shit I've been saying all along. I knew damn well if I hadn't got out of there, there's no way I would have lived past 32. I'll say this till the day I die. It's impossible because it's just traps everywhere. Seriously, traps everywhere. Or I explained to him how my dad, granddad, uncles, they would set me down from the age of 6. Okay, I'm Junebug, by the way. Junebug, do this, don't do that. Do this, don't do that. Watch for this. It's so serious. You got normal shit. You get up here, go to work, whatever, school, you worry about blah, blah. Just normal shit. Well, you got normal shit there too, but then you got to add all this other subcultural shit. Or literally like that book, The Green Book, you know, back in the 60s or what have you. And even though it went away, the point of it and the meaning didn't go away. Meaning, when you're minorities, what hotels you can go to and what hotels you can't. What restaurants you can go to, what restaurants you can't. What roads to take, when to avoid. What towns to not go to at all. What towns you got to leave by 4. Some you got to leave by 5. Some you're okay during the week, but you can't go on the weekend. All this old weird shit. And if you don't learn the lesson, you caught up. and you fucked. And where you gonna run? And who you gonna talk to? There's nobody to talk to because the system itself is us and them. And we're the niggers. And niggers are less. I've been saying this shit and saying this shit and saying this shit because it's fucking true. You know? And I'm talking every goddamn thing back there. I don't give a fuck if you go to the hospital, you go to law enforcement, the school system itself, the entire thing is set up. There's a separation. There's first class, which is the whites, and second class and below is anything other than that. And if you didn't know your place, boy, you figure that shit out real quick. You know, the word boy and nigger, to me, same. Or you watch someone, they had a pet and treat the pet like a a goddess. You? Less than a fucking cockroach. Yes. And how dare you say anything?
It's almost like I've heard that people want to shame you for being white, that sort of thing. And I, in higher education, I never felt that way.
Right.
And I never had a white peer say that to me, that they felt in any way responsible for the sins of the past, you know? Right. And I wonder, no, I don't wonder, but it seems to be a very current thing.
Yeah.
Within the last 7 years, that people feel it's okay to say things that they never would have said before, or take stances that they never would have said before. And it makes me think like, gosh, you were thinking that the whole time. It's just now you feel free to do
That's right.
that,
That's right.
And gosh, man, America.
Right. It's a flipping of script in some ways, I think. And then at the same, there's a part of me in my deep, deep gut feels it's another high, sophisticated level of surreptitious bigotry too. It's almost like an opportunity to still steer some of it, but then change how it appears. That just I could be wrong, but because I've never seen the bigotry itself just completely go away. And I don't think it's ever going to completely go away. I think that that is a weakness in character trait. I think that's a weakness in this thing that drives us into them. It's almost like some people's self-esteem, you can't feel up unless you're stepping on somebody. And the wealth and whatnot in this country goes so deep and so far back. Ain't no color folks in that though. None. Not like that. Not to that level. And so there's some kind of a weird control factor or some sense of trying to do that. And like he's saying, like give it time. America is supposed to be the melting pot. We're supposed to be all things and everything. Well, then we do it, and then there's problems with it. Well, which one is it? Do we want to be the idea or not? It's like you can't have both, yes or no. And it's just this constant soup bowl, And I'll always kind of speak in defense of affirmative action, mainly because affirmative action came around during that time, my developmental stage. And it was like the early 80s. And we were talking about this shit earlier. And we've had Uncle Toms or Sambos, not Jemamas, self-hating Negroes always and whatnot. So that's not a new thing. But some that say they come from nothing and rise up, and then they want to shit on affirmative action. And I give you a scenario when, and I said this before other podcast episode. It was Chris Rock when he had a show. Remember? Yeah. Okay.
Everybody hates Chris or something like that.
Some shit like that, right? And there was a black senator on there at the time. And there was a blue screen behind them that the senator didn't see. and Al Sharpton was there, right? But they didn't show him at first. They waited for a bit. And the whole discussion about affirmative action. And this senator going on, well, affirmative action, he pretty much shitting on it, but didn't respect the fact that without affirmative action, he wouldn't have got where he had gotten. Because you needed certain policies to even get there. And it helped. But this is the whole thing. Affirmative action didn't write my resume. I did this, I did, right? And Chris was like, brother, I hear you. Now, I'll never forget this. Brother, I hear you. Say, you're right. It didn't write your resume. It didn't write mine either and whatnot. I did. I went to school, blah, 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 blah. That's it. And then Al chimed in. And he said, brother, you're right. And he stopped. He turned. Chris already knew it was coming, but he didn't know. And he said, you're right, man. You know, affirmative action didn't write my resume either. It didn't write this. But affirmative action made the powers that be read your resume. And I explained to him how I remember during that time in the Southern States, because I'm a few years older, the stats would not show us colored people showing up at, higher educational grades through the school system. It just made it look like us nigger, we just all dumb. And the federal, like, there's no way that can be. So the law made them, it's like, nah, show us. Goddamn it, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, Negroes start showing up on the list. 85, 86, when I graduated, I showed up on the list. I was only black in the top 10. There was a black cat that was valedictorian the year before that. There was another black cat that was, we're not dumb. But prior to affirmative action, we didn't get on the list. I don't give a fuck how great you perform. So there's these versions of this sophisticated shit coming back. That's what I see. So, when you're ignorant, but when you live, like, hold up, wait, slow down. And the other thing is, this whole kind of a resurgence of bigotry and shit. Well, we went through it. Well, yeah, we went through it, and we still here. Well, the ones that did it, they still here too. It's not like it's some new shit. No, it's like, no, let's do this again. What?
Thanks again for listening to the Y.O.D. podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Extreme Power Gym. More than a punch, more than a kick, though, you will learn to be quite efficient at all of it. It's a mindset, a lifestyle, and for some, a life change. Muay Thai taught and learned the right way. A school where you can grow and get to know that powerful, confident self inside of you. Extreme Power Gym, 3375 Mission Avenue, Suite E, Oceanside, California, 92058. Call 760-672-8860 and speak with Arjan Rubin today. Visit online at www.extremepowergym.com. Extreme Power Gym, your Muay Thai journey, your life-changing journey, your better you starts here.
From the time I get up to the time I go to sleep, put the positive out there. Some will say, what's the point of the podcast? What do I always say? To help. I don't make a dime off of this. I never intended to. If something happens and it turns into something then wonderful, that ain't the fucking point. The point is to give a shit and help because things are going in the wrong goddamn direction. We all see it and it's like, what the fuck? It's like this truck or vehicle is just damn near gonna go off the fucking road. I'm like trying my best to keep the motherfucker on the goddamn road. I'm just one person, I get it, but that's me shining my light. Fuck negativity. I've lived through it. I've survived it. I've watched many others that didn't make it. And is some romantic bullshit view of, oh, let's have a revolution and all this, let's whatever. Motherfucker, I grew up in a slave shack. I did not have inside plumbing until I was 16 years old. I know what it's like to live like that. And not one fucking thing is cool about that. Nothing. And what kills me, the individuals are all this, yeah. They haven't gone without. Because if you did, you wouldn't want anything to do with that. I don't give a fuck who you are. You don't want that. To just be that low with nothing. So, I know what it's like. I ain't touching it. Let's do better. Let's do better. But I'll be damned if I'm gonna not pay attention to that Bengal tiger over there. I see you, motherfucker. I respect you. Stay your ass over there. I ain't fucking with you. Don't come fuck with me. You get the metaphor in that, though.
I believe that the experiences that Crew and I are talking about in the 80s in Alabama, I believe that those who would want that to come back in your face, hey, I believe that they're minority. Like that sort of in your fucking face, accept it.
Yeah.
I remember learning you don't call grown men boy. Like that is, I remember that, and it was done to humiliate and beyond the idea of the other, second, third class citizens. I don't think, and I also think that a lot of white Americans wouldn't want it to go back to that either. Because it's just so fucking ugly and embarrassing. Who wants to go viral saying that shit?
Right.
Who wants their grandkids to look back and see, like, look at my grandfather doing this, you know, sort of thing. Does that mean they're not racist? It's more like still waters run deep. But I think that those days and what we experienced, which is just in your face.
Ooh-wee.
Now, I'd compare it to walking in a gang neighborhood in Southern California. Like, where are you from? What are you doing here? Get the fuck out of here before we take your head off. That is the best comparison I could have to any individual living here in Southern California to that time period.
Thank you.
But it was an accepted gangbanging, if you will.
Yeah.
By generations.
It was sanctioned.
Yes, it was you have to learn to be racist. You know, you go to the preschool right now and you see black kids, white kids, every kid's playing with each other.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to hate.
That's right.
You have to.
It's taught.
Racism, yes, that's taught. And I think that, and I'm glad, man, that my kids are growing up in a different spot. It doesn't mean we don't have problems. Yeah, that Bengal tiger, yeah, you're over there. yeah. But I'd rather keep your ass in a cage than let you walk around.
That's
or
right.
on a leash. Go over there, man.
Stay over there.
You know what I mean? If you feel that way, and you know, you have, let's face it, you have a right. If you want to be racist, yes. As long as you don't, you know, try to hurt me or hurt my kids or whatever, yeah, go do that. Go do it over there.
Yeah.
Go do it over there, man. I ain't got no time for that. And I think that a lot, you know, being half white, I could say to my family members who are white, they wouldn't abide by it any more than I would. Because then that would mean that it's okay to discriminate against my grandson or my nephew or whatever, which is objectionable in itself. You know what I mean? You think because white is right, or you have the complexion for the protection, that somehow I'm going to roll with you while you demean my blood? No, I think not. So I am very glad that those days that Crew and I have spoke about, the stifling environment of no, I used to cry a lot, man, before going to school and then getting in fights. I was like, what was my what did I do wrong?
Nothing. Not
What the fuck did I do wrong, man? And gosh, you know, talking about this it's cathartic, offloading it, because I never had a reason to. You know what I mean? I live here in Southern California. I'm chilling. I love it here. Not saying we don't got our problems, you know. We have poverty. Costs a lot to live in paradise. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that just in the South, if you know, like you said, Florida, you're in there, okay, the humidity when you go outside, that is what that sort of racism felt like. Like, just fuck. I want to just go home.
Everywhere.
I just want to go home. You know. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder. Those sort of things. And I'm not saying that. I'm not going to use it. I don't feel that, as maybe as a child abused and victimized by it, but you know, you outgrow it and you use that as food to get up off your feet. The danger in that is allowing that to feed anger, you know. Because I do remember a few times when I would get into it with individuals here in California who said some racist things, and at school and really hurting them on behalf of that. And this was a very long time ago. Really hurting them and not getting in trouble for it, really, like on campus suspension while they were. But I remember a certain pleasure in dismantling them slowly, cat and mouse. But now I look back on it and cringe, like, you know. However, that was born of a experience of a second grader.
It's almost like self-evident. Every single one of us do our best to raise our kids, be a good person, do this. It's just as normal as can be. But then you always, at some point, to some degree, there's that whoever the other is that's countering that because they're teaching the other kid, no, this. So somewhere in there, each one of our kids got to be made aware, hey, listen, if this happened, you ain't programming them to go hate. No. But you're going to send them out there not prepared to deal with what may come. It being super, I'm so nice and so whatever. That's like me. Not that it would happen, but it's to the extreme, but it's to the same damn point. There's a Klan rally over there. They whooping it up. Hey, let's go and hang out. No. That's an extreme, but you get the point though. And that's not going away. It's like, wait a minute. Be aware, but that don't mean you got to feed into it. And like I said, so clearly I'm not that way. He's not that way because we've been knowing each other for over 2 decades. Didn't even know. We're like counties next to each other during the same time, the same shit.
Yes.
Because we don't wear it.
Right.
We just talked about some of the most foul shit, period. We're not constantly, no. The good, the positive, go forward. He's in the field of helping things that are bad. I'm constantly helping people with something that's bad. That's all we do. Help. It's these other motherfuckers that ain't. It's like, okay, here we go. So I think that it'd be great. That's like Eden, right? Heaven, isn't that the Garden of Eden?
Yes.
That's a wonderful idea. I don't know how realistic that is, though.
I believe in hope.
Constant. Well, but so by default, the way we live is hope.
Yes.
We are the definition of hope.
Yeah, you're what the Kevin Hart's going to learn today. You're going to end up in some circumstances that you're going to find out like, whoa. And it's better to have some sort of preparation or body armor that you can recognize it and not be like him and I, children, like, what the fuck? You know, it's okay to be hopeful and that things will change because I do believe they will. I don't know when.
Right.
I believe they will, honestly. But don't be naive about it.
Right.
You ever seen that documentary, The Grizzly Man, the guy who liked grizzly bears? Oh, cool. You like grizzly bears? Right on. Conserve them and everything. He went and tried to live with them and got eaten by one. Don't be naive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Find out who it is. Crew and I being friends, and my homeboy Sam over there being friends of all different ethnicities, like attracts like.
Yes.
If you have a hateful fucking heart, I'm going to recognize it through your actions and your speech, and I'm going to need you to go over there. I'm not going to get into an argument with you.
Right.
And all that. I'm just going to go over there.
Leave you alone.
You know what? You're an acquaintance. And I know that you speak with venom and hate in your heart. And I don't need it.
Right.
Because you know what? It's like I said, it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's too fucking easy. And when you carry that around inside you, not only does it burn the people around you, but then you become a hollow shell.
Yeah.
Because hate is not, I have found the most hateful people, their black hearts, it affects them too.
Oh yeah, it's sick.
You know? And that is not for me in any way hope. And I believe in G.O.D. In what form? Man, I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know and I don't pretend to know. And I don't tell people da-da-da-da-da. But I don't go around telling people you shouldn't, if you're gay, you shouldn't. Man, that's not my fucking business.
Thank you.
I got rent to pay. I got to get that milk. I gotta get, you know what I mean? Oh, you're
Do
happy?
you?
You're happy? Now I have gay family members. You're happy?
Do you? Fuck
Right
gay.
on. And you know what? And if we're chilling and somebody wants to come and step on my family members' toes because they're gay, then we can't have that, homie.
Right.
And that's not even like he's pro. No, I'm pro my family.
Right.
You know, I heard Cat Williams say, "I'm not racist, but I'm pro-black." I said, right on. I said, what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
And I have a sincere hope that we will overcome these things. But I think that then it will just transition to the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
The ones with the ultra rich, and then a whole lot of the have-nots. And I'm not coming on some communist tip. You know what I mean?
No, it is what it is.
Marxism. You know what I mean? But you have the very rich and the poor, and we used to have the middle class, which was stabilized, right? The middle. What happens when your middle class shrinks?
And it is shrinking.
Are they going up to the top? No, probably not.
Right.
They're struggling to make rent, those sort of things, and I think that that's what it will transform to. However, that shit's been going on since the dawn of time, since Egypt, the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? We're just constantly. I feel like many times we're not inventing shit. We're just regurgitating.
Yes.
Recycling. Yeah.
Yep.
And unfortunately, sometimes that comes in the form of hate. It's easy to blame you for my problems, right? It's all your fault. But then, you also realize that when you disappear, our problems are still there, man.
Right.
Because many of my problems are self-made.
Yep.
Check this out. Life is hard. Life is fucking hard. Life's even harder when you do stupid shit. That's my profound advice. You know what I mean? I just turned 50. I have an education and la 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 la. But when you do dumb shit and go around pissing people off, they're going to want to see you fall.
That's right.
Regardless of your race.
That's right.
And so do unto others. You know what I mean? Make friends with the people who say, when you say, like, how you doing? They really give a fuck how you doing.
Don't I say that?
You know what I mean? That's the homies.
There's some Southern boy shit here.
That's the homies. The homies that went, hey man, so-and-so, I'm really fucked up. I'm having a bad time. They don't come over and try and fix it. They just fucking sit with you.
Yep.
Like, hey man, I can't do nothing about it, but you're not alone.
Right.
Let's chill. Like, you know what I mean? I'm here.
Right.
That's all I can do. That sort of thing. And I don't base those individuals I associate with on their race, religion, gender, sexual orientation. And it's like, you got my back, I got your back, and that's the way it works. You reap what you sow, karma, whatever it is you want to call it. It really works, and sometimes people have to find out the hard way that if you go around mistreating people, you're gonna reap the whirlwind, man, and nobody's gonna give a fuck. Because people like to see you fall, and that's regardless of your race.
That's fact.
It's regardless of your race, you know what I mean? And we also need to get rid of this. Minorities think like if somebody becomes educated or makes it or whatever, oh, he's trying to be.
Uppity.
Fill in the blank. Fill in the fucking blank.
Uppity.
Uppity. Oh, you don't know your place. Well, what the fuck is my place?
Didn't I just say that though?
This is America, right? Rugged individualism. Make your own way. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Do you ever realize that you can't pick yourself up by your bootstraps? You ever tried that shit? Sit down and pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It don't work like that, but it's a cute little saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, and I know I'm rambling, but at the genesis of this, I would hope that Ruben and I's experiences with that can be a teaching moment, because I'm so glad that that's not acceptable anymore. I really am, because how do we ever get ahead as a nation? How do we, if you are religious, how do you worship any sort of higher power and treat other people like that? How the fuck do you do that, man? Yeah, So, like, be kind to others, Don't ever abuse kids. Don't fucking hit women. Treat senior citizens with respect. And those who are disabled that way, too. Because someday, these conditions, if you live long enough, are going to happen to you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's my concept of being a man or an adult.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Treat others. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
That's right.
If you could whip my ass, it doesn't mean you should.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because maybe I'm going to come back and slash all your tires and you're going to be like, fuck, I had to put it on the credit card. You know what I mean? Because These are life lessons that, my parents told me, but I had to fall down and bump my head a lot in order to realize that they made a lot of sense. And those lessons were learned over time.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? Like, pick your friends by how they act. Nothing else. Don't pick them on their religion or
Right.
gender or orientation or whatever. Pick them on how they act. Because at some point, what they say, no man is an island.
That's right.
We're not islands. We're social animals.
Yeah.
And I think that's when we default to that hate and anger and everything, we're acting like animals again. Highly evolved, intelligent animals.
Still animals.
And we're real good at destruction as a race. Like, we could blow up the world right now if we wanted to. We still have a hard time with cancer.
Right. Make that make sense.
Thanks for tuning in to the Y.O.D podcast. Be sure to click follow, subscribe, and share at the Y.O.D podcast. Visit online at www.theyodpodcast.com. Thanks for following. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, commenting, and sharing. We are Y.O.D.
It's a cap.
Yeah, Y.O.D. I'm the young old dude with the new ology. Leader of the new school, old mentality. Got the loose Twitter fingers. You following me? Yeah. Over your head, got too much knowledge. Graduated in games, season no salting. Outlast today, don't need no nostalgic. I'm over 38, performing like a freshman in college. Yeah. I'm the youngest old dude you know. Motive with life change, effortless with the flow. Atta boy, oh, you ain't know? This man against time, and this time just had to go. Let me vest 20 pounds of haters and run some more. Steadily getting the lap, I stride around goals. Lost it, I'm found in and winning. How I catch a bunch of L's, I quarterback the beginning. Yellow Y.O.D. Yeah, I'm a young old dude. Learn the rules like a pro, taking students to school. Y.O.D. Up in the gym, dropping mad jewels. Still hungry, stay seasoned, play mad fool. Y.O.D. Stay on my grind, it's that mastermind. Like wine, I get better with time. Y.O.D. Oh, you ain't heard about me. Got everybody in the city saying Y.O.D.
Wrap it up. Can I say something there?
Yeah.
Me and crew, we want to say this. Growing old is a privilege.
Yes.
Life is hard as it is. Life's even harder when you do dumb shit, youngsters. That's all to you. Live long and prosper, motherfucker.
Fuck yeah. Nah, kill. That's it.